God offered forgiveness freely without having to pay for it. So he wanted to reform the church and posted the theses as points to be argued in a debate, had no intention of creating a new branch of the church, but that is more or less what he did do, set in motion a huge rift within the church which led to the Reformation. Here's a poem for today by Marge Piercy, October Nor'easter. Leaves rip from the trees, still green as rain scuds off the ocean in broad gray scimitars of water, hard as granite pebbles flung in my face. Sometimes my days are torn from the calendar, hardly touched and gone, like leaves too fresh still to fall, littering, sodden on the bricks. But I have had them torrents of days. Who am I to complain? They shorten. I used them hard, wore them out and down, grabbed at what chance offered. If I stand stripped and bare, my bones still shine like opals, where love rubbed sweetly hard against them. October Nor'easter, poem by Marge Piercy, from The Crooked Inheritance, published by Knopf and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac, supported by the Poetry Foundation. You can turn your iPhone or Android into a virtual poetry library with the Poetry Foundation's Poetry app, available to everyone online at poetryfoundation.org/mobile. Produced by Joy Biles, assistance from Kathy Roach. Be well, do good work, keep in touch.
This is the Composer's Datebook for October 31st. I'm John Zek. Oh, it's the time of year when chains rattle, doors creak, and skeletons dance. It's Halloween, when even the classics dress up in a monster costume. This music is by the American composer Libby Larsen, a 1987 concert suite titled What the Monster Saw, inspired by Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein. Larsen says, What the Monster Saw is a musical exploration of the second part of the novel. In it, the monster confronts Frankenstein, his creator. In 1990, Larsen confronted the same monster at greater length in a full-length opera titled Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, again based on Shelley's classic tale. Speaking of monster music, connoisseurs of horror films consider The Bride of Frankenstein, released by Universal Studios in 1935, to be one of the best ever made. It featured Boris Karloff as the monster, Elsa Lanchester as his bride, and a classic film score by Franz Waxman. Waxman originally composed his Frankenstein music on a pipe organ. His score was then orchestrated for the film by one Clifford Vaughn, who translated many of the organ's spookiest effects into eerie and effective symphonic colors. So successfully, in fact, that their creation refused to die. Bleeding chunks of the film score were transplanted into dozens of subsequent Universal Studios thrillers and movie serials. Dr. Frankenstein would have been proud. For more information of Larsen and Waxman, check out our website, composersdatebook.org. Composer's Datebook is produced by APM, American Public Media, and the American Composers Forum, reminding you that all music was once new.
Welcome back to Studio 27 on this Halloween morning, and yours truly, Joe Hafner, here at the controls on this spooky Thursday, or attempting to make it spooky. Of course, I don't think anything is as scary as healthcare.gov these days, but we're working on it. Anyway, it's time now for celebrity birthdays, which we'll take care of after we get an explanation from Lily about what's going on.
Damn it, Jim, what the hell's the matter with you? Other people have birthdays. Why are we treating yours like a funeral?
Balls, that ought to be pictures.
And taking a look at celebrity birthdays for this Halloween, the 31st day of October. Which, by the way, before I get to this quick list of celebrity birthdays, if you're celebrating your birthday today, happy birthday. And you happen to share birthdays with these famous people. Are you ready? I want you to write them down now, okay? So here we go. Here's the list. It's not a very long one, but it's a list nonetheless. Director Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings is 52 today. Drummer Larry Mullen of U2 is 52. Rob Schneider of SNL fame, several movies, stand-up comic, is 50. And Rob Van Winkle, you know him as Vanilla Ice. Yeah, I can see why I changed it to Vanilla Ice. Rob Van Winkle. That sounds like a guy who's destined to work at Casey's. Now, I'm not knocking Casey's jobs. Anyway, Vanilla Ice is 46 and still acts every bit of 18. And those are the celebrity birthdays for today. Now, let's head back in time for today in history. And I have room for one passenger in the time machine. And I've chosen you. Yeah, you. Come on. Step forward here. Let's get in the car here. And let me turn on the time circuits. I'll do that first. Start the engine. And away we go. So we're going to input the year 834 AD. That's right. October 31st, 834 AD. And on that date in history, hold on here. Wait for the temporal flux. Here it goes. We're in the tunnel. We're leaping. Going through. Oh, yeah. Oh, I hate this part. And now we're going to fly around the sun all at the same time. On this date in 834 AD, the first All Hallows Eve was observed. Get this, by churches. That's right. Churches endorsing Halloween. On this date in 834 AD. It was established by Pope Gregory IV to honor the saints. I understand he wore a John McCain mask. And now for more of Today in History, let's send things over to the Associated Press before across our wide Missouri.
October 31st, 1517.
Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott.
In Germany, the start of the Protestant Reformation as the priest Martin Luther takes a stand. He posts the 95 Theses on the door of Wittenberg Palace Church, questioning Catholic Church practices. 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson orders a halt to all U.S. bombing of North Vietnam. Johnson says he hopes the move spurs fruitful peace negotiations to end the Vietnam War.
I have reached this decision on the basis of the developments in the Paris talks. And I have reached it in the belief that this action can lead to progress toward a peaceful settlement of the Vietnamese War.
But the war rages for more than another 4 years before a ceasefire agreement is finally reached. 1984. In India, 2 Sikh security guards of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi assassinate her. It happens months after Gandhi orders a deadly attack on the Sikhs' holiest shrine to crack down on Sikh militants. And 1926. In Detroit, magician Harry Houdini dies of gangrene and peritonitis resulting from a ruptured appendix. Houdini became ill after a student had struck him in the stomach in his dressing room days earlier. Today in history, October 31st. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Better give yourself a shot, Doc.
No, I don't think so. I think I ought to stay clear.
Do as I say. Extend your arms, Jones.
No, no, kill you all, die, make you suffer!
This is Across Our Wide Missouri with Bob Pretty.
Missouri's legislature by now was certainly on the run. At least one of the legislatures was, although its members didn't realize it this day was the last day the Confederate legislature of Missouri would meet. Of some significance in connection with that meeting is the fact that Missouri, today, seceded from the Union. At least some believe it did. The story in a minute.
Hi friends, Joe Hafner here. Are you interested in buying, selling, trading, or renting a house? Or maybe you're in the market for buying or selling a car? Or perhaps selling or giving away clothes, furniture, or electronics? Well, I can help you out. Just email me, Joe, at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. That's Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. Email me today with your item and or items, and together we'll come up with a creative way to buy, sell, trade, or rent any reasonable item or service that you want. Keep in mind, though, I don't deal with the exchange of firearms, alcohol items, drugs, or anything illegal or immoral. So send me an email today at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com.
Deposed Governor Claiborne Fox Jackson had been ruled out of office several months earlier by pro-union forces, but Southerners still felt Jackson was the legal head of state government. After all, he'd been elected by the people. 10 days earlier, he'd called his legislature to meet at Neosho. Journals of those proceedings called them the third and special session of the 21st General Assembly. Neither house was closed to a quorum, and the acts of the legislature couldn't be considered binding on the state unless you were a Southerner. The legislature met in Neosho on the 29th and in Cassville Courthouse from the 31st of October to the 7th of November. 2 acts were passed on October 28th. One ratified the Constitution of the Confederate States of America. The other was an act of secession. Representative George Graham Vest, who later served in the Confederate Congress and even later still was in the U.S. Congress, is given credit for writing that secession act. Although the Senate had already passed a similar proposal, it was withdrawn. Only Representative Isaac Shambaugh of DeKalb County voted against Vest's bill in the House. The Senate recorded no negative votes. The Speaker of the House signed both acts the next day to certify they'd passed in his chamber, and 2 days later the President of the Senate affixed his signature. By then, the legislature had fled to Cassville, about 20 miles from the Arkansas border, to continue its session. During that meeting, Governor Jackson notified the Senate he had named Sterling Price a Major General of the Missouri State Guard. But on November 7th, the legislature passed an act allowing the Guard to be disbanded, with members allowed to enlist directly into the Confederate Army. The Senate also approved during that session a $10 million appropriation to repel any invasion of Missouri by federal troops. A bond issue was authorized to back the appropriation. That same day, the legislature went into session. Governor Jackson signed the bill seceding from the Union, declaring, as it was put, the ties heretofore existing between the United States and the state of Missouri dissolved. The North ridiculed the legislation, Jackson's signing of it, too. The South welcomed it. It was not until near the end of the war that the records of the Senate and other papers of the legislature were recovered. The 49th Missouri Volunteers, operating in Alabama, captured those documents and sent them to the Secretary of State in Jefferson City. The 23rd General Assembly had them printed, and they're recognized as the best source dates of the rebel General Assembly today. Just before adjourning, a resolution was offered calling the legislature back into session in Pineville in McDonald County. That was defeated. Members instead decided to reassemble at New Madrid the next March in 1862. But by then the Confederate cause in Missouri was so far gone that even optimistic members of the legislature could see no sense gathering in New Madrid. The rebel General Assembly, in fact, never did meet again. It was the end of an effort to maintain some part of a Southern government in Missouri. The South could grasp at straws no longer. By mid-November 1861, there was no longer a reason to pretend that a rebel government really had any authority. Headquarters were set up in Little Rock, Arkansas. Jackson died in December of 1862. Finally, the seat of the Confederate Missouri government was placed by his successor, Thomas Reynolds, in Marshall, Texas. The old Cassville Courthouse, surrounded by a deep ditch and portholed as a fort, was badly damaged after the Battle of Pea Ridge, just across the line in Arkansas. It was torn down in 1910. Missouri's temporary capital, a frame house-type building in Marshall, Texas, was torn down long ago. But it was in that courthouse in Cassville that the last meeting of Missouri's rebel government began. The same day Governor Jackson signed the secession papers on this date, October 31st, 1861.
It's not as scary on this Halloween to come dressed as the U.S. budget deficit.
Let Marketplace be your guide to the modern world. Subscribe to the Marketplace Tech Report podcast. Find it on iTunes or at marketplace.org/podcasts.
From APM in New York, I'm David Brancaccio. We'll have the global perspective on business and